welcome back to the True to Form podcast. I am your host, Audrey Neff, and I have a highly, insanely intelligent human being with us today who is Judy Kozlicki. I'm sure a lot of you guys know her already. She is the Director of Medical Aesthetics Consulting at Skytale, who I feel like most of us in this industry, we are all familiar with Skytale, but we'll definitely dive into that in today's episode. But first of all, so I met Judy in person, I guess this past summer at one of the aesthetic conferences. She's an absolute pleasure. We share a lot of mutual clients as well. And before we jump into any episode, I always like, our guests to kind of go into their backgrounds. And to be honest, Judy, I don't even think I could give an introduction of you apart from your title because she sent me her bio, and we're going to publish this on YouTube. So for those of you guys who like watching podcasts on YouTube, you guys will see this monstrosity of a bio, which I love. Judy, I read through it and I'm like, this woman is brilliant. You have such an incredible background. You've done so many impressive things. I mean, I'm so excited to have you on this podcast. I know that there's going to be so many wonderful takeaways for all of our listeners. So before we jump in, given that you have an insanely impressive bio, I would love it because a bio of this magnitude deserves none other than an introduction from the guests themselves. So I think it would be so wonderful if you can kind of go through, honestly, your background and what led you into this industry. Obviously, you have a lot of experience in the medical aesthetic industry. It's really phenomenal to see as I was reading through your bio. So just to set the stage, and then we'll jump into some amazing topics. Just give a little intro of yourself and how you ended up at Skytale as well.
I'll try to keep it little, but thank you so much. What a flattering intro. I mean, Audrey, thank you. That was very humbling, so I hope I live up to it. I'm not sure about brilliant, but I will say fortunate. I feel very, very blessed and fortunate really in my journey in this industry and my career as a whole. So I'll start at the beginning of joining medical aesthetics, which is about 17 years ago. But it is important for me to kind of say I do have prior corporate experience in the marketing and sales arena. So have worked for some very big companies prior to having two girls and then taking a little time off to explore my music career, which is a whole different story. But as I decided to come back into, real work life, I stumbled across a medical spa, and this is back in 2007 maybe. So single location med spa, they needed front desk help. So I started at the front desk, and that's the beginning of my journey in this kind of space, so to speak. I did end up becoming the office manager, but this med spa, which rode through, by the way, it's important to note, kind of rode through that early recession, 08, 09, where we were wondering, is it really going to survive and thrive? And we did, like we're seeing now in this space and time, right, in our economy. So fun to have lived through it. We were targeted by a large corporation called Lifetime Fitness, who I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Of course, they have a presence across the entire United States, and they have traditional spas and salons in all of their health and fitness centers, but they wanted to try their hand in the med spa space. So they really bought us or acquired our business. We were across the street from one of their flagship locations, and they moved us inside and used us as the beta or model to expand into that industry. I, again, having kind of that former corporate background, it was a really natural fit for me. And the corporate office is located here in the Twin Cities, which is where I'm from, born and raised. And so I was fortunate enough to be moved up, promoted into a corporate role to really spearhead our expansion, adding medical spas. And I like to tell this part of the story because when I joined the corporate office or that team, my boss said to me, your house is on fire, go get it. And I opened 13 locations my first year at Lifetime.
Wow.
So if you can imagine being on the road and learning all of the things that we needed to learn, we did open 33 med spa locations across 20 states while I was there. I oversaw all of that expansion, meaning I really wore a lot of hats. I helped our legal team really understand the legalities and compliance issues that we would have in different states. I helped really hire all of our medical directors, all of our medical personnel, because this was a new language, right? To speak with nurses and injectors and what is this laser thing we're talking about, and who, what are the qualifications someone needs to have to run that. And then because it was a corporate entity, we really also had to be very, very focused on our branding, our training. And so we developed like a regional training group and launched one of the biggest injectable training centers for Connie Brennan out of our St. Louis Park Club. So I know you're familiar with her. I see you shaking your head. And I was really part of all of that expansion, which was just a phenomenal learning experience. I credit my numbers game to that journey as well, because again, this company was very, very tight on financials, and we scrubbed the P&L every single month. So I learned a ton about that side of the business, and really how do you have to drill down into your numbers to understand how to grow the business, how to measure, how to track, how to guide performance, and really motivate and stimulate growth with individual providers as well. So I left Lifetime about 5 years after being in that journey and moved to a solo plastic surgeon, and have ever since kind of been in that space, helping either a solo or small group plastic surgery practice grow and expand their practices. What was fun about that is I felt a little more nimble, right? And when you move to private practice and that I could help the owners make decisions that would really move the dime and help them grow. So that was really fun. And I enjoy the surgical side as well. So it's all fascinating. The whole medical aesthetic industry has grown so much. And I know we have so much to talk about. So I have to just finish by saying I became a consultant about 2 years ago, was doing it part-time. And it was a year ago that a mutual connection in the industry, introduced me to Ben and Skytale. And that was just a perfect match because, like I said, I have an operator brain, but I'm a data junkie. I need the numbers to kind of tell the story and help really all of our clients understand their financials, but also understand how to operationalize them and grow their business.
I love it. And thank you, Judy, for your background. I thought I was taking so many notes. I think just hearing your journey, it's incredible. And I want to reiterate this because this just is a true testament of, first of all, why I'm so grateful that you're here with us today, but just hearing your journey in medical aesthetics. You've literally done everything. It's so cool that you have all this experience in different roles. So, you started at solo med spa right before the '08 recession, got acquired by Lifetime Fitness. You moved into that corporate type of role where you eventually opened 33 locations across 22 states, moved on to the plastic surgery realm. And then a year or so ago, you end up meeting Ben and landing in a consulting role at Skytale. So, and first of all, I love the two things you called yourself. You have an operator brain and you're a data junkie, which is so, yeah. And I'm going to put a pin in that because I feel like that's going to be really, really great. I want to talk about KPIs and metrics here at some point, but I kind of want to go backwards for a little bit because you also mentioned in your time at Lifetime, you helped hire all the medical directors. You were in charge of hiring a lot of the personnel. Going back to that med spa that you worked in '07, you said they needed a lot of front desk help. So I want to kind of start with the overarching topic of people. And you and I both know, and you would know better than I, given that you've had way more experience in this industry that I have, is people are definitely the lifeblood of your business. You need to hire right, train right, have the right culture instilled. Everyone needs to be bought into your practice and your unique value proposition as well. And I feel like this is something and I know you're going to agree with me, but so many practices struggle with the people component, the team component, the culture component. So in terms of I guess we'll just start off hot and dive right into, obviously you've seen this struggle. What do you find are the most common, I guess, whether it's challenges or mistakes that practices typically make when it comes to, I want to start with hiring and training
Yeah.
first, and
Mhm.
then we'll kind of move into culture, which goes hand in hand. But in terms of like the hiring bucket and the training bucket, in your experience doing this for so many years, what are like the biggest things that practices typically struggle with, and where do you come in to fill that gap?
Mhm. I love the question. And yes, building teams is probably my biggest passion in the industry. And it's so important to really think about how people are individually wired, what are their drivers, right? So even as
Yeah.
early on in the hiring process, you've always heard the saying hire slow, fire fast, right? But hire, I think being thorough in that interviewing process does mean you have to take a little time and you need multiple people to have conversations with this potential employee or staff person or provider that you're bringing to your team, because building a team is like chemistry. How they all fit together, right? Is it the right fit or cultural fit is equally as important as the person's skills and experience that they bring to the table. So that has to be top of mind throughout that hiring process. And I will go so far as to say the last practice I worked at, um, our leader was very thorough, and we all, any any candidate that was in the final stages of the interview process had to go through a personality test that included DISC. I'm sure you've heard of them. There's numerous things that we could test, right? But we included it because, again, it not only told us so much more about the person than you could ever hear in an interview. It told us about their drivers, right? What are their strengths? I'm not looking for weaknesses or reasons not to hire someone, but I do want to know how they're going to fit and how we can help them feel successful in their journey, because people are wired so differently. And then how, again, like I said, how they fit with the team. So I think that's a good thing to add. Obviously, be thorough and do your background checks, do those things. I think a lot of people skip that and then they get surprised down the line. Um, Taking that kind of the next step. Let's say we hired a new employee or provider, et cetera. Onboarding is critical, and having really strong onboarding. And onboarding to me does not equal orientation. Orientation is probably a day, maybe a half a day, right? Onboarding should really take weeks, if not months, when you're really trying to embed somebody and really help them feel accepted in the team and feel, again, successful in their role. So I would say 90 days minimum is true onboarding, if not longer, depending on the role. So that part is equally important. And then training, ongoing training. You know, Audrey, as well as I do, this industry, things are changing all the time,
Yeah.
right? So new service opportunities, new ways to provide the same service. And we have medical professionals that we're working with. They're hungry for learning. They love to learn and, do continuing education in that. So if you're, I might be leading you to the next question, but if we're talking about how do we retain good people, it's helping them be successful and feeding what feeds them, right? So allowing them to continue their education, supporting that in some way as an owner, I think is really, really critical.
Definitely. And there's a million things I could go into now, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
decide what avenue I want to venture down first. So I guess let's start from the on a training topic. Let's go over to this first, because I know this is another topic you're passionate about, is the front desk. So let's move to like the front of the office. And I love that you call, and I couldn't agree more when Judy sent over a list of, I asked her, what are the things you're most passionate about talking about? This is one of the things, was front desk, which I totally agree with, director of first impressions. And this is a and I'm going to let you speak to this, but the front desk, AKA that director of first impressions, is oftentimes where training is extremely overlooked and in some cases just undervalued. Like they think, oh, I'm just going to go out and hire a receptionist who's been working at a traditional derm office because she knows how to answer phones and blah, 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 and not train her how to sell, not train her on talk tricks, not ensure, she goes through our full, comprehensive 90-day onboarding process and all these things. And they just throw someone at the front desk. They're like, okay, your job is to answer phones, and okay, that's it. And that person, just like you said, it's the first personal interaction a potential patient has with a practice. That phone call is so critically important, that first initial phone call, and that's where so much money is lost. So I want you to take us down the front desk avenue and talk about, just in your experience, what do practices struggle with, and what are some really, really powerful things that practices can start to implement in their practice if they aren't doing this already, to really drive the ROI of that employee at the end of the day.
Yeah, thank you for the topic. It is one I'm super passionate about because, hell, I worked the front desk, right? I started there. I know what the role is like. I know the pressure that is on that person to be able to answer questions, answer the phone in a timely manner, and help patients, guide them, right, to what services they might be interested in. Ultimately, their job isn't to answer the phone, it's to schedule an appointment, right? And keeping that piece of it in mind, it should really lead our leaders towards training appropriately, like like you mentioned, the talk tracks, and really educating, giving some scripting. And it is, again, agree wholeheartedly, one of the most overlooked roles and undervalued. We often, like you said, try to hire cheap, for lack of a better word. And this person is technically responsible for the growth of your practice. Yes. That first interaction is so critical. To me, leads are like gold. So how we answer the phone, respond to our web leads, and how quickly we do that is also critical, right? Time is everything. And if you can imagine, we've all been there, done that, seen it happen, where the person at the front desk is not only responsible for answering the phone and scheduling appointments, they're also checking in and checking out patients. So who's more important in their mind? I always see them struggle with that. Well, I have someone standing in front of me, yet the phone is ringing. Typically, we'll prioritize the patient in front of you, right? And then that phone goes ignored. So first things first, if it's a busy practice, I would do everything in my power to get the phones off the front desk, so that person at the front is truly able to provide that concierge greeting and service that, let's face it, in this industry where patients are choosing our practice and they're paying a lot of money to see us, we need to treat them really well. It's not, I'm going to say this, and hopefully no one hates me for saying this, but it's not a derm office, right? And it's not, an orthopedic practice or your GP where we have to go and you can just greet and say, yep, have a seat, we'll call you when ready. People want to be called by name. They want to be recognized. They want you to remind them if they've got alley points or things like that. You have to take that 10 times further in that role than just checking them in, right? So that piece of it, I would say, first and foremost, try it, if you can at all, move the phone coverage off the front desk, or at least alternate, right? Have two people so that you can have one covering phones, one greeting and checking out patients. Lead management, I sort of hinted towards that one. Like I said, having represented owners, I never wanted to spend an owner's marketing dollars blindly. So again, of course, I like data. I want to know what's happening, but part of that data is also knowing how my team is doing. How are you doing on the phone? Can you answer a question? appropriately and guide a patient towards an appointment. I'll go back to my very first, like when I started, and actually I credit one of the providers with this. She told me, don't answer all their questions. Whatever you do, you're just going to get into trying to provide a consultation on the phone. Schedule them for a consult. That's my job. So even though we want to empower our front desk to have answers and to have the knowledge, I think it's important that we stress to them, your ultimate goal is to schedule this person. So sometimes it's okay for you to say, that's a great question for the provider. I'd love to schedule you with a complimentary consultation. There's no commitment there, but she will be able to answer all of your questions about that. And, we're happy to get you on the schedule. Are you open on Tuesday? Or, just leading and guiding that patient towards that. And then tracking that. As a business owner, I think we do need to listen from time to time, observe, you can kind of shadow, mostly to provide feedback and opportunities. Hey, if we didn't schedule that patient, what could we have done different? And how can we next time answer that and really be a guide for the patient? So I feel like I'm rambling a little bit because there's so much to say about
I love it. There's so many more things we could just dive deeper on, and maybe we will just do that. And we'll just bring you on for another episode and cover another wide range of topics, Judy, but a lot of things that we could go into. So, okay. So in terms of the front desk, and you brought up something that was very, very powerful, which is your front desk. And I totally agree. A lot of providers, they undervalue and they don't actually think of that position as being someone who is literally, as you said, word for word, responsible for growth. They will literally make or break the success of your practice. That first impression, that first interaction can either make you a lot of money or it can either lose you a lot of money. And you and I are familiar with the same data. Like I think AMSPA's State of the Industry report, the most recent one, said like the average per visit spend is like $536 per visit. I find that a little low, but being the industry standard, that just shows there's a lot of room for growth for all of us, which is great. But when you talk about losing or profit leaks, let's call it, every phone call that goes unanswered, every phone call that, contact information. I mean, with mystery shopping practices, it's crazy how many people don't ask for your email, your phone number, and they could be the nicest person on planet Earth, but they're just not trained. And that person could hang up the phone, call provider A down the road, and they get the contact info. They follow up with them and then when they're ready to make a decision, they go there, and they could have been a worse injector than you, a worse provider, and you just lost whatever that lifetime value was. So like that front desk and ensuring that you have literally bulletproof processes in place, following up, answering the phone, having talk tracks, scheduling the consultations, tracking leads, that's a whole nother topic. In terms of consultations, I'm curious what your take is on this, because I typically recommend, well, I'm not even going to say what I recommend. I'm going to hear what you have to say since you've done this for so many years. In terms of consultations, do you typically recommend providers charge consultation fees or take deposits and cancellation fees in terms of things like that, like 48-hour window, 24, this is our consultation fee to apply towards treatment, things like that? I'm curious what your take is on that, because I hear that question all the time from providers.
So yes, Audrey, I thoroughly believe in charging a consultation fee, 100% for plastic surgeons. I do think in this era of no-shows in our med spas for our providers, we should be charging for those consultations as well. We want to know that the patient is serious about visiting us. We have seen it over and over, kind of that lack of respect and not even calling to cancel. It's unfortunate, and time is valuable, right? Yes. As long as they can apply that fee towards their service, I think it's important. I also think it's important if you have a lengthy or procedure, something like a sculpture appointment or even a Morpheus aid or anything that's a lengthier. Halos are a great example. Yeah. Let's take a deposit, something even more than just your $50 consult fee or something, to reserve that time so that we're not losing. And again, the patient should be perfectly willing to do that. They want the service. So just completing the payment, at the time when the service is complete should be great.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I'm curious what your response is to this, because this is a question I hear, or a pushback, I guess I hear all the time is, well, Mike, like when because I'm on the same boat as you. I totally agree that there needs to be these fees involved, because your time is not free. Your time is a revenue opportunity that you're either going to make money with or you're going to lose money with. If someone cancels, a couple hours before and you don't have a policy in place, and then you have several hours where appointments aren't booked and you could have made $3,000, $4,000, whatever it is that one day. And then that happens day in, day out. And right there, we don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. But something I hear so often when I talk to practices and clients about this is, well, my competitor down the street charges free consults, so therefore I need to offer free consults too. Like what do you say to a practice or a client that you're working with that is, because some people let competition get into their heads, and
Mhm.
instead of backing up for a minute and focusing on what's really going on in their business, they're like, well, Med Spa A down the road is doing free consultations, so I need to compete with that. So I need to do free consultations too, or else I'm going to lose patients. I'm just curious what how you would respond to that, because it's something I hear a lot.
I think we really have to establish who we want to be and how we
Yeah.
project ourselves in the industry, right? What is my med spa look like? What if I value my patients? Hopefully, they will in turn value my time as well and their experience here. I think if we create, our job is really to create the ultimate patient
Yeah.
experience, and that doesn't necessarily equate to free consults or $8 Botox or et cetera.
Yep.
So, think about what's going on within your unique business. I mean, it really is, and I'll say this just as a consultant, every practice is different.
Yep.
We do have to customize and work through different issues. And some have a really extreme problem with no-shows and some do not.
Yeah.
So charging or not charging, I think we have to stop thinking about what our competition is doing and think about who do we want to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. And that's so true. And I think so often they just get so consumed in the competition. And it's like, should you be monitoring what they're doing? Sure. But
Mhm.
don't become obsessed with it and trying to copy everything that they're doing, because that's not unique. Just like you said, the job of any practice is to create the ultimate patient experience. And that's going to take me into another topic here, but just I couldn't agree more with everything you said. And something else I'll add is, if you do that thorough job of figuring out who you are as a practice, who you are as a business, what your unique value proposition is, what your vision is, your mission, your core values, all of these things, and you build that unique brand, if someone opens up across the street from you, it shouldn't matter, right? Because they're going to be different than what you're striving to be. And I think practices that figure that out early on are definitely those that see success and gain market share. And a lot of times, practices have different types of clientele. They have different types of capital equipment. Maybe they're more, they have expertise in treating certain skin types or skin concerns and things like that. Like everyone has their own unique approach that they can bring to this industry. But like you said, like you just need to figure out what that is at the end of the day. So on the topic of, because I love how you put it, it was so perfectly, the job of any practice is to provide the ultimate patient experience. So, and totally with like the word free, like to me that just, and we and I probably agree, like it's like an icky word. Like I just don't like it. Like this is a luxurious business. It's cash pay medicine. These treatments are expensive, and it's like free. It's like, uh, like it definitely
People don't,
minimizes.
yeah, people
Yeah.
don't value what they don't pay for. It's
Hmm.
true. And I'm not smart enough to remember and quote a particular book, but there definitely are studies on it about even the mentality of the more you pay for something, how much more it's valued, right?
Hmm.
Of course, I live in an era and it's just my mindset. I love a good deal, but that's on a pair of shoes or something. I
Yes.
don't necessarily need a discount or a good deal on my injectables, right? I want to
Hmm.
pay for quality. And I know that the people who are there in those roles, that they've spent a lot of time honing their skills and experience. And I think that's
Yeah.
the thing we have to train our patients to understand. And again, now I'm circling back to our front desk person, right? Or the person answering the calls. Credentialing your providers is
Yes.
so important to building the value. And the more we do that, also think about, wow, I really don't want to waste someone's time and not
Yeah.
show up or cancel last minute or that. There's just a mutual respect that comes. So.
Yeah. I could not agree more. So yeah, so here's a takeaway for you guys on this podcast listening. If you're free this, free that, always doing discounts, always doing whatever it is, like if you're going to put yourself in that bucket of, okay, you're the cheap practice, like, and being cheap is not unique in any way. And I also find, and you know, that a lot of the practices where they are maybe a volume based business, they treat people like transactions, they're the cheapest in town, they're not going to have the best retention, patient loyalty, per patient spend, all of these things. Which takes me into, let's go into a retention and loyalty topic here. Let me look on time. We probably have, 15 minutes left or so. So on the topic of being unique and on the topic of just driving better revenue, profitability, better culture for your practice, because your culture is, yes, your team, your people, but it also extends into your patients, because patients can sense a crappy culture or a toxic culture in a practice. And so
Yeah.
having the right culture between patients and your people, your staff is also a big part of running and operating and growing this incredibly successful practice, and eventually one day, getting the valuation you want to get for it. So on the topic of loyalty and retention, so I'm gonna let you speak to this, but I I love this topic, and I'm so glad that we have you on to go into this. Is should every practice be marketing? Yes, you need leads, you need to convert those leads, you need to know what your cost per acquisition is, all of these things. But I find so often that practices throw so much money down the hole of marketing, and they don't spend time to actually strategize around internal processes in place for retaining their patients. And retention is so much cheaper than acquisition. Like why would you not want to have strategies in place? So in your experience, what are some of like the most effective tactics that practices that you've worked with, or just given your experience over the years, what are some of the most effective things that you've seen, or that you've implemented in practices to help them increase their retention and loyalty rates in the practice?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to say it again. We have to create an amazing patient experience
Mm-hmm.
because, and it starts from the very first visit, the very first phone call, all along the way. And so part of what you're talking about is culture and developing that culture within your staff, your team, so that they exude that and there's not one hiccup on the team in that patient journey. Secondly, of course, there are ways to think about how do we value the patient and loyalty. They're staying with us. There are simple things you can do. I honestly, before even implementing a membership or loyalty program, which I will get to, just initially, I think about new providers. In fact, they struggle with that sales approach or how do I rebook and retain
Yeah.
patients? Just a very simple act. If you're an esthetician, you offer a hydrofacial, that's something that can be done on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can share with your patient, if you schedule with me and maintain an appointment within 4 weeks, I can offer you 10% off. This is not a giant discount that's like going to hurt
Yeah.
your margins or something like that, but it's an incentive to come back. Now, there has to be some education around the reasons for wanting to come back. It's not just I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming back because I'll get 10% off. Obviously, the esthetician needs to do a really great job at explaining how, I mean, I go so far back of way back in the day when hydrofacial was launched and it was healthy skin for life. Um, it fit with lifetime really well, which was healthy way of life. So it sticks in my brain. But
Yeah.
you can do something like that as general maintenance to keep your skin looking great, right? And then we have a little bit, of those more in-depth procedures that we'll have to do from time to time to really turn back the clock. But good, healthy skin is just a foundation. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of them. If you choose to go down the route of a membership program, I really prefer calling it a loyalty or VIP program. It's how we position it. And you're the marketer, so you know, but I think there's usually two reasons people want to, or practices want to implement that. One, if they do want the volume, so they'll go straight up for volume and highly discount this membership program. And oftentimes I do think it is a younger demographic that wants to break up their payments over a monthly, you know, way as opposed to paying so much upfront. But you need to think about your patient base too. I worked at a practice in Houston, for example, and our patients had a lot of longevity, and we actually formed a medical aesthetic advisory board with our top 10 patients, and that have been with us the longest, but also been great referral sources. And we started asking them questions like, okay, we're thinking about implementing this membership program, and this is years ago. And half of them didn't want it because they actually enjoyed, no, I want to know what I'm spending. I'm just going to give you the money up front and then I'm set for the year or whatever it is. So understanding your patients is really important. So speaking to the demographic. So how you position it, I think loyalty points, loyalty programs are a nice reward. I think we also have to think about what opportunities do we have with patients that are currently in our chair, right? What can we do in this moment, in this visit, to enhance your experience, but also call it an upgrade or enhancement or add-on, right? Those are ways to really build revenue and revenue per hour or revenue per appointment. And there are ways to turn that needle just a little bit. And we want to start thinking of it more as a value add as opposed to a discount. So when I talk to my clients about promotions and that, I'm a stickler for not wanting to be a discount Debbie. Like, let's create value and offer what can we do to enhance the experience and grow our revenue at the same time, right?
Totally. And couldn't agree more. Value needs to be, or the perceived value needs to outweigh what the cost is. And you know, we were talking about the word free. Another word I would advise practices not to use is discount. Like same type of perception. Oh, discounted, whatever it is. So you talked about rebooking. Rebooking is huge. I thought that was a great tip you gave a lot of our listeners. You know, if you rebook with me, hydrofacial, let's say $150, $200, whatever it is, depending the add-ons of the files you put in there, 10%, not that much, right? But that can build value. And then of course, building on that, you know, you went into it a bit, was skin health in general. It's a commitment. And that falls on the practice of putting them on treatment plans and making sure that they're super comprehensive, building the value in them, you know, approaching the consultation the accurate way. And then if you are a practice that has some type of loyalty program or VIP program, membership program, using that as a tool to help, I guess, like create buy-in for the treatment plan as well. Because over time, it can, let's say, for lack of a better term, save you money over time if you're going to commit to this plan and get the results that you're looking to achieve. So on the rebooking thing really quickly, what are some, because you talked about like in the room getting them to rebook, what are some tips that you would have for our listeners on when they're checking the patients out at the front desk and, you know, they're taking their money, like, and they're like, oh, okay, we need to rebook you. Some provider or some, you know, people at the front desk are trained to do it really, really well. Or it's like, oh, do you want to schedule your next appointment? Oh, no, thanks. I'll just call you guys. Okay, no worries. Like, what are some tips that you give to practice managers, practice owners, and front desk when it comes to rebooking? Because rebooking is huge, and so many practices just kind of brush it off, and they're like, oh, okay, don't worry about it. No worries. So I'm just curious of like what your take is on that one.
Yeah, two main thoughts, Audrey. One is I think a warm handoff from the provider is the most effective. If the provider has the time and wherewithal to walk that patient up to checkout, they should be recommending and saying, hey, we did XYZ today, but I need to see her back in 4 weeks for XYZ. And that handles it. Now, let's face it, sometimes we have very, very, very busy providers and they're back, booked bell to bell and need to rush back to turn over a room or things like that. So it doesn't always happen. So for our front desk coordinator or whoever is checking that patient out, being really conscious of saying, what did Angela recommend for you? When do we need to see you back? It's a very simple question. I mean, it should be two-part, right? What products did Angela recommend for you to take home with you today? What can I get for you? And to when did she recommend we see you back? Let me get you scheduled. And I think gone are the days that people feel very pressured by that. I think it's a kind thing to do. You can always, I tell our front desk people just to say, you can always reschedule. Like if you need to change this, it's no problem. But her books are really full, as you can see, very, very busy. So we want to get you on the schedule just so that you don't miss that marker.
Yeah, definitely. And
when the toxin wears off and you're about to go to an event and then you call in a panic.
Yeah. And then the worst is if you need it and you didn't rebook and then you can't get in and you're gonna have to go to that event with your static lines all over your forehead. None of us want that to happen.
No.
But such great points, Judy. Couldn't agree more on all of them. I love the perspective and the experience and just all the knowledge and wisdom that you're sharing with our listeners. And I couldn't agree more. So rebooking, you talked about upselling with the patients that are in your current chair, and you touched on products really quickly. Couldn't, like retail skincare, that's another whole revenue opportunity we could dive down if we had the time. But you're easily increasing your revenue per appointment by adding skincare, right? And ensuring that you're tracking what products they're using, when should they be repurchasing those products, and ensuring that you have a process in place of ensuring that they're buying the products from you and not going to online retailers, which we all know. The majority of medical grade skincare lines can be found on, Lovely Skin, Derm Store, whatever it is. And then just having those processes in place. So huge upsell opportunity within that appointment with the patient sitting in your chair. Definitely big. So I know we're at the top of the hour, Judy, we didn't get through everything, but I sensed this, that we were only going to kind of get through things because
I know
I honestly, it's been a wonderful conversation with you. You're really, really amazing to talk to. I'm so excited for the release of this podcast. And now that we have so many other things we didn't touch on, we'll definitely bring you back on. That is a no-brainer. So you guys can all get excited and pumped to know that Judy will be on another True to Form episode here in the next few months so we can cover some more topics. But before we end, I know you do a lot of speaking in the industry as well. So you're on the road often giving lectures and things like that. So for our audience, we are now in Q4. We have several events still left in the year. If you could kind of just let our listeners where they can find you and any upcoming lectures that you will be giving at some industry events.
Yes, thank you for that. Next up for me, I will be down in Austin for the plastic surgery meeting. Not speaking, but we will have a booth. So lots of available time to chat with potential clients or just, pick my brain. After that, I'll be in Miami for the Women in Aesthetic Leadership Conference put on by AmSpa, as well as staying through the weekend for the AmSpa Boot Camp. I will be speaking there probably on the KPI, nice. So establishing KPIs for your med spa practice. And then I'll be at MAP in Vegas. I think that winds up the year, but then early in the first quarter, I'll also be doing a business summit with Dr. Buford. It's the Core Aesthetic Training Institute, a whole business weekend summit, focus summit, and I'll be doing quite a bit of speaking there. In the future, I know we had so many things to talk about, but one of my passions, like I said at the beginning, is really building your team and nurturing your team. So I'd love to share thoughts on really how best we as leaders can do that to provide the support for our employees and providers and staff members to grow. So
Yeah,
That's
I love it.
that's one of the topics along the way, that I seem to get chosen to speak on. So
Nice. Well, you'd be the perfect person to speak to that. So I will definitely see you at the AMSWA boot camp. I think I'm going to pop down there on the Saturday. It'll be
excellent.
pleasure to see your beautiful face there, Judy, and catch up in person. Other than that, like what, because Skytale, you guys, I know you have a consulting side and the M&A side.
Yeah.
So really briefly, what are the services that Skytale provides at a high level? And then how can people get in touch with you guys if they're interested in your guys' services and expertise?
Mhm. So on the consulting side, we're really like a strategic advisor. We do act as a fractional CFO, deep diving into financials. But like I said, we use the numbers to help guide us to make operational decisions as well. That's where I sit. And then we also have an investment banking team that really represents a seller, an owner who wants to sell their practice. So it's sell side M&A for a short term to describe that, but they really handhold an owner through that journey of
Yeah.
selling either to private equity or family funds or that.
Yeah.
So great team, super smart, very thoughtful and connected. We really treat all of our clients like family, and it's been a great ride, great company to join.
Yeah, and I'll just add to this too. Like Skytail, you guys have a phenomenal reputation in the industry, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I've never run into anyone that has ever said anything even close to being except a million stars. Like you guys have a pristine reputation, honestly, which I think is difficult to have. And so I couldn't. Everyone I've met from your group is amazing. So I really couldn't encourage you guys to reach out to them more, depending where you are at in your business. If you're looking and you're in that growing and scaling part, startup, exit, whatever it is, you guys obviously cover all phases of business, which I think is so cool and definitely needed in this industry. So Judy, thank you so much for coming on the True to Porn podcast. I know our listeners are going to have so many takeaways from this. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I am just so grateful for your time. I know how crazy busy you are, and I cannot wait to see you shortly in Miami at the AMSWA boot camp.
Love it. Thank you, Audrey. Really appreciate the time and the opportunity.